So in our series of videos on DPIA, let's talk today about how should you utilize and report your findings on the data protection privacy risks after performing a DPIA. Welcome to my YouTube channel where you daily see new content on data privacy, and as I said, we are going to talk about how to maximize the findings of a DPIA report. So what is DPIA? We have been talking about this for the last few days. It's a systematic approach that you should take to find out the risk associated with any personal data processing that is happening in your organization, right? As per Indian DPIA Act, collection, storing, using, sharing or disclosing, and disposing or destroying personal information of any Indian citizen means you are covered under DPIA Act, and therefore we recommend do DPIA, so that if you are doing any of these 5 processes, you do DPIA to assess these processes and help you get aligned with the requirements of the regulatory compliances of your countries, especially in India, the DPIA Act 2023. As of now, Indian DPIA Act hasn't defined the detailed rules, but we expect that since they also want you to assess your privacy practices, it will end up to be similar rules like the international rules regarding DPIA, right? So the process of DPIA should almost get standardized around there, with maybe a few tweakings depending on the fine-tuned rules that should come in soon. DPIA is generally recommended to be conducted whenever you introduce a new process, or maybe when you see a change or an update in any of your data processing activities. So let's talk about what you should do with the report. You should utilize your report to turn the insights that you have got from the report into real actions. For example, if you learnt a particular risk, you should document and find out ways how can you mitigate that risk. You should translate your findings into real actions with individual departments. You have identified risks, you show what is the priority of the risk, and you show how would you mitigate those risks. You might need to consult individual users, you might need to consult individual departments on how those particular risks can be mitigated, but you should do that. Demonstrate it to them through your report that this is what is not the right practice and could go wrong. What could be the cost of the kind of breach that can happen because of that particular activity? How would you mitigate it, and what is the cost of mitigation versus the cost of breach? Maybe create an ROI on whether you want to spend that money to mitigate the risk and how soon do you want to spend that. Maybe a future budget, a long-term perspective. You should demonstrate the strategic actions that you are required to take in your organization once you do the DPIA and share your findings with your team. You know your team does not mean the entire organization in one single thing. It could become granular, and ideally it should become granular into individual departments, so that each department starts working the way required, and then that automatically converts into a standard privacy practice, privacy by design for the organization. Your audience could be senior management, who maybe you need a broader overview only, and maybe the cost both of the breach as well as the mitigation steps. Your audience could be compliance teams within your organization. How are they looking at it? Your audience team could be data protection officers. Data protection officer in any case could be one of the presenters himself, especially if it's an internal DPO. He would need to do DPIA internally as well from time to time, but it could also be that you are a larger organization processing data in multiple states and cities, so you might have privacy officers doing DPIAs locally and reporting into a DPO or a central DPO or a national or a global DPO. You should talk to your operational teams. They are one of the most important audiences because they are the ones who are going to implement the changes, the mitigation steps, the processing processes, and of course your audience could be regulatory because they also have a format of how your DPIA should be done, or what is it that they need to know and help and see how the data is being processed around there. You should prepare for regulatory review. Always. DPIA is one of the tools that helps you prepare for a regulatory review. Create transparency and due diligence of all the processes. And when you are ready with these and your documentation is proper, then whenever a regulator comes in for a assessment or an audit, then you can share your own DPIA reports or maybe do another assessment with the only the time gap between the last report and the new assessment. Document it at the formats provided by the regulatory. Report if there are any significant risks. Clear mitigation action plans need to be formed. Right? Mitigation action plan is very important. Sometimes you may not be having cost available enough to implement everything at that time, but if you plan very well what you can do now and what you can do in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, then even if there is an audit, you can always validate and say that we know the risk and this is how we plan to mitigate it, and define the timelines and ask your finance or your management for the appropriate budgets. The key highlights of the report should include all the risk and the adjustments that need to be done in the system based on those risks. How can you get into continuous improvements? What are your cross-functional learnings? I've been talking of one particular function in the organization where marketing has data that goes to sales, that goes to service, that goes to accounts, that goes to billing department, right? So cross-functional working of data and movement of data, performance tracking of the organization and that DPO or the privacy organization within the large organization, and what are the future matrices you have created, what are their current status, and so that in the next DPIA you can show whether it improved or not and what are the percentage improvement that you were able to achieve with the recommended or planned mitigation plans. You should maximize the value of DPIA findings by summarizing the risks, summarizing your mitigation plans, preparing your short-term and long-term plans to mitigate the DPIA risks and utilize them to update, to recreate your internal data processing processes. Come closer to the Dr. Ankovikian model of privacy by design. Reinvent your processes or improvise your processes such that anything that gets processed takes care of the respective privacy then and there, instead of looking into privacy separately and routine working processes separately. So that's about the best possible utilization of your DPIA findings. I hope you like the content of my video. Please press the bell and the like icon, subscribe to my YouTube channel and share your feedback in the comment section. Thank you.